Hello, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. You already know who I am. I'm joined by some familiar faces. We're going to discuss that result against Tottenham. Of course we are. It's been an eventful week for West Ham, from Said Benrahma to obviously that comeback against Spurs. So, lads, how good was that goal?
Incredible.
It's just different class.
Totally unbelievable. He could do that 100 times again, and he probably would never, maybe once or twice it would come off. And as it was against that mob as well, it makes it a little bit more special for me.
For me, it's the goal of the season already. It's going to take something amazing to knock that off the top spot.
Yeah, do you know what? Like, anyone that's played football knows how difficult that is. I mean, he's almost cut across it, and Lloris has got a fingertip. And obviously, we was talking before about the watch along, and I was 2 minutes behind, and everyone's going nuts. I'm like, I don't know, it can't be that good. It's just absolutely unreal. I mean, fair play Lanzini, because I think for the past few years we've always been sort of yearning for the old Lanzini, but technically he's still got in his locker.
Oh yeah. They say class is permanent, don't they? So it's definitely in there, but obviously we haven't seen enough of it. But that was worth waiting for, wasn't it? All the games putting our hair out, willing him on to perform, and it all came down to that, and that was well worth the wait.
Yeah. No, honestly, mate, it was. I still can't get over it. I couldn't sleep. I don't know about anyone else, but I couldn't sleep on Sunday.
How many times have you all watched it back? That goal.
A lot.
Yeah.
At least 50.
I think I've rewatched the actual second half of the game about 5 times, throughout, because it's been on Sky on repeat the whole game.
Yeah, absolute worldie.
Right, let's get into it. First question: when it turns up, who deserves credit for the result against Tottenham? Now, I know we all got maybe caught up in that comeback. It is one of the best comebacks in Premier League history. It will go down. But for 80 minutes, it was a bit sketchy, if I'm honest. Those first 16 minutes are probably the worst I've seen from us this season. We were all over the place. I know we wanted to take on Tottenham. We pushed up quite high, and they played on that. Obviously, Son got in a couple of times. So I'm going to come to Jeff. Do you think it lies almost just through the players, just through the magic, maybe Creswell's delivery, obviously Lanzini's goal, or do you think Moyes deserves credit for keeping that high press, and obviously the one that paid off in the end?
Well, I mean, it's congratulations all round, really. I mean, certainly the players' belief that they could still get something from the game, and the subsequent work rate that they put into it was a major part in it. Like how they bred that belief amongst the squad over the last few weeks has been fantastic, especially with all the stuff going on behind the scenes, and all the stuff around the board and that. For them just to pull it out of the bag on the pitch and do it week after week at the moment is brilliant. But surprisingly, I actually think that Moyes' subs changed the game. I mean, we've been going mad for weeks that he doesn't make a sub before the 85th minute, and he goes and makes 3 subs. All of those players played a part in what unfolded, and I never thought I'd be sat here praising Moyes' substitutions, but here we are. It's surprising. And the third thing was Yarmolenko. I thought that block not block, but putting off Bale. We had a big part in that. You've got to believe Bale every day, the pressure Yarmo put on him, and then to go up the other end and create the second goal the way he did with that little no-look pass. I thought sort of the 3 elements that brought that result together. I thought it was fantastic.
Definitely, mate. And even that Ogbonna, because I didn't see it when I first watched it, but Ogbonna cuts off Harry Winks, doesn't he, just before he comes in on Lanzini? Yeah. Almost. And it's the little things like that as well that kind of show, listen, we could go on about Moyes, whether he's a good manager or not, but I think he's instilled this kind of resilience within the team now, and you're seeing players really work for each other. And, even when they celebrated, they were all there, they were all going mental, and I think that's kind of the ethos of West Ham. It's that never give up attitude that he's instilled, and obviously that's come through the side. And listen, I think for a long period of that game we were poor. I've got to be honest, we were. I was tearing my hair out saying the game plan's all wrong. But in fairness, they stuck to it. We did create chances even when Tottenham did have the ball and they were 3-0 up. And I think it was risky, but ultimately it paid off in the end.
Yeah, for sure. And you see the players are playing for each other, but they are also playing for the manager. That starting 11 seems to have really sort of bonded, and they've got a plan, haven't they now? So, and they all seem to believe in, have faith in what the manager sets out for them. So that's good. And he seems to have from nowhere added inspired substitutions to his CV, which has been a long time coming, but here we are.
Yeah, apparently they were forced. Apparently Antonio had a little niggle, so he took him off. So we'll never quite know what would have happened. But yeah, listen, it's good to see players come off the bench with a bit of quality. And West Ham do have that when we can use it. And obviously the goal, unbelievable. So I will come to Henry, mate. Do you think it was a Moyes game plan that worked, with the chances we created throughout the game, or do you think it was just one moment of brilliance from Manuel Lanzini?
I think throughout the game, obviously the first 16 minutes, our defence was just all over the place. And I think part of it had to do with the fact that a few of them were away on international duty, so haven't been able to train with each other for the last 2 weeks. Obviously, Koufal is one of them who's only just arrived, really. So I think that's sort of maybe a slight explanation as to why that first period happened. But for the rest of the game, I thought we played better than a lot of people were saying. I thought we lacked sort of maybe creating the clear-cut chances, but most of the game we were sort of camped in the Tottenham half, and that's not something we've been used to doing in recent weeks. We've been playing on the counter and springing quite quickly, whereas obviously Jose tried to sit back against us and expose us how we've been doing to other teams. So I think once we realised that and adapted, it was actually quite a good team performance, and I think we did deserve to get something out of the game. But in terms of actually deserving to get something and getting something, it's two different things, isn't it? And I think the moment Lanzini conjured up was just, it will go in Premier League history of one of the great moments, a goal like that. And also, if you think about the backstory of Lanzini of not scoring in the Premier League for almost 2 years, and was our main man after Payet left, he stepped out of the shadow and is now he'd fallen away from that, and people asking for him to get sold and should be turfed out after he didn't really fulfill his new contract in terms of his ability. I think I was one of them saying, well, we should try and move on Lanzini while we can still get a price for him. But the fact he's done that has sort of reminded everyone how we all love our little Lanzini and the fact he's our jewel. So as much sort of tactical nous Moyes can do, you need that bit of magic, and Lanzini provided that. So Moyes obviously gets credit for putting Lanzini on, but I know we've all seen the photo of Kevin Nolan showing him the document going, and it says shoot. But in terms of actually putting it into practice, that has to go down to Lanzini.
Yeah, we're all in. I don't know about you lot, but I just feel Henry's touching it. Lanzini, we obviously thought he'd fallen off a bit. His injury in 2018, he come back, wasn't really the same player. But sometimes I see Lanzini in the final third, and I think there is something still there. Maybe he hasn't got the athleticism that he did before, where he played a little bit more central. He could run in midfield. He carries the ball. Doesn't do that as much now, but I think in that final third, he still has that ability. Whether it's a pass or obviously a shot, to get it off. And it's fair play to him. I'm so happy for him to get that goal. We will touch on it later, whether it sort of changes his position within the team.
Showed it a bit in the League Cup. I think it was the goal he assisted Anderson, where he I know it's obviously League Cup and it's against Hull, but did about 4 step overs, turned the defender inside out, and then laid off the ball to Anderson. So he has shown flashes and glimpses that player is still there. It's just trying to get it on a consistent basis now.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think mostly because his role has changed within the team. Him as a player has changed, and he almost isn't a Moyes player. I know he was kind of pivotal when Moyes first come in, and he played him almost a bit like a 10 in behind Arnie. But obviously now we've got that front three, kind of doesn't fit in a little bit. So it's a bit like where do you put him? But it's good to see, mate, and it's just a moment of magic. Mark, do you give credit to old Moyesy? Because I'm not being funny, mate. After about 16 minutes, I just looked at him and was like, there's no way. He's got it all wrong. He put the same press that we had against Leicester, which I thought was so impressive and worked so well. And he kept with it. And he kept with it through 3-0. And I wouldn't believe we got a draw. So do you think Moyes deserves credit, or is it really just down to Manu and Balbuena?
I think, to be honest, it's a little bit of both. I don't blame him for going for that press. Obviously, you just mentioned there, it worked very well against Leicester. So I understand why he did it. I think that clearly wasn't the right way to go. The way that we got carved open at times was embarrassing. And on that day, I literally thought at 3-0 that it was going to be 7, 8. To be honest, I really did. I just didn't see a way out for us. But credit to him. I think he mentioned in his post-match interview that he tweaked a few things, and I think partly that was just to give the players the belief, because you guys have already said we did create chances. Obviously, Fornals missed the header that he should have done better with. I think that's being polite. And we did have some good pressure, but we obviously didn't create much. And it was really the subs that had that massive impact for us. And I think that just gave us the belief. And funny enough, as soon as we got that first goal, I just felt that Tottenham were going to crumble. You just looked at their players and you just thought they felt, oh no, here we go again. We obviously know that they do have a history. I think you talk to, I've got a few friends who are Tottenham fans, and they're always moaning about how weak that they are and their mentality and that. And as soon as we got that first goal, I felt that we were going to get something out of the game. I know Tottenham, obviously, Val probably should have excellent defending in the end, actually, from Yarmolenko, but I think that the players that came on, the subs, had a big impact, and I think it gave Tottenham something else to think about rather than just the way, because clearly at that point it worked in bits and pieces, but maybe not as much and as well as what it had done in previous games. But obviously the goals, certainly the no-look pass from Yarmolenko in the build-up for the second goal, and obviously Lanzini's goal itself, that's obviously down to the individual players rather than anything that Moyes has particularly done. But I think happy days, and I think Moyes' passion was obviously clear there, and how much he wanted, how much he wants to do well for himself personally, but also for the team. And I think that shone through. And I think it just sort of, I think, gets away this myth a little bit of him and gets a few more of the fans sort of on his side rather than off of his back. Because he has had a lot of criticism since he's been our manager, and at the end of the day, we're to back the manager and the players. So get off of his back and let's see where we go.
Yeah, it's one of the things, mate, with Moyes, wasn't it? Like, it's just for so long we've kind of been there were obvious errors in the team, and we obviously had a good run towards the end of last season. Then it seemed he sort of capitulated against Newcastle. We just weren't a team but this system, credit to him, he's changed it. He's played Arthur on the left. We look better defensively. Creswell's been performing quite well as well. He gives me nightmares every time he tends to run forward, but he has got 3 assists in 2 games now. So you've got to give him credit for that change, albeit I think it was slightly forced. You also got to give him credit for sticking with it. And he's found a formula that works. Against all the teams we play with this 3-4-3, we've been competitive, which for a long time for West Ham, you've watched us play and you go, oh, God, here we go. We're not going to get anything from this game. But in that Spurs game, with that system, we're always competitive and we always create chances. And I kind of feel that Tottenham did themselves over a little bit because they took their foot off the gas. That second half, they just sat deep. They said, oh, do you know what? We'll see if we can counter them if West Ham come forward. But they couldn't do anything. And the deeper they went, it gave West Ham the chance to push up, create chances. And you know what Tottenham are like? It gets to the 80th minute, we score a goal and they start to get a little bit jittery. So yeah, you got to give Moyes the credit, but no taking away from Manu there. No taking away.
No, definitely not. I mean, I think someone mentioned before, obviously the technique on that goal from Lanzini, the way that he's cut across it. I mean, that's world-class territory we're getting into there. And as I said before, we could hit that 100 times again and he wouldn't get it as precise as that. It was a fantastic goal. And obviously, it was great for him. Obviously, I think some say 2 years, I think, without him scoring a goal in the Premier League. So it's good for him personally, and I must admit I was one of the ones that was thinking, well, he's not going to fit in Moyes' system. I think he hasn't shown anything that he was going to get back even to be half the player that he was when we first had him the first sort of 2 seasons or so. So for him to score that goal was great for him personally, and he has shown some good form in the Carabao Cup. And I hope now that this is them games and obviously the goal against Tottenham there, that is actually maybe now a sign for him that he will push on and hopefully get back to where, to some sort of, where he was before.
Yeah, definitely. Look, fingers crossed, mate. It does beg the question, though, obviously, that left-hand side, Pablo. Now we're maybe talking about Lanzini playing an attacking role. And you can't forget this man, Ben Rama. Now, the debate across social media has been going, and obviously we've seen the pictures of him in training. Apparently, he's been doing really, really well. So I will come back to you, Mark. Do you think Said Benrahma should come straight into the side, or do you stick with the likes of Pablo Fornals, who, yes, he misses sitter, but you can never overlook his work rate and his quality against Leicester. He showed he's still got it.
I'm going to be a real party pooper here and say no, I don't think he does start. Yes, as you mentioned there, Fornals obviously missed another sitter, and I think that's his third or fourth one I think he's had this season, I think, at the top of my head. And that obviously can't keep happening. But to counter that, he's got 2, I think maybe 3 assists in the 5 games. You know, so he is still contributing, and obviously his work rate is very much like a Moyes player. Personally, I think that Moyes will go with Benrahma the way that he basically treated Jared Bowen when he signed him. He'll leave him on the bench. He'll probably get 15, 20 minutes, and he'll introduce him slowly so that Benrahma understands what Moyes wants. And obviously, if there is that opportunity, he can get a bit of magic on in the game, then obviously fantastic. And I think we're probably looking maybe in about a month's time, I think, personally, for Benrahma to be starting, assuming, of course, that everyone stays fit, obviously, Fornals and probably Lanzini comes into that discussion, maybe on that left-hand side as well. I don't think, and I wouldn't personally start Benrahma against City, and I'd give him an opportunity to break, to get into the understand the specifics of the team first.
Yeah, no, there is that argument, and obviously, I mean, I know we didn't win against Spurs, but you don't tend to change a side that has done so well, that has been so consistent. And you are right, there will be that transition. Brentford play a very expansive type of football. 4-3-3. He gets free roam on that left and cut in. I'm not sure he'll get that same kind of responsibility at West Ham. There will be the onus on him to press a bit more. Having said that, if he's got Arthur behind him, it does sort of free him up. There isn't as many defensive responsibilities. I actually think, having watched Man City, their fullbacks get forward quite a lot. And I do think someone like Benrahma would thrive with a little bit of space. And we all talk about, can he make the step up because of the intensity, because of the level? But give that guy space because of his technical ability. I think he'll do wonders.
Yeah, that's what I said on Saturday's show. Some of the stats that he had from last season, I think he was second in the Championship in terms of dribbles last year. So he's obviously got that in his game. And as you say, Man City, I think that's probably the area that you would be looking to try and get at them, isn't their full-back positions. I think that's probably their weak link, which does seem a bit surprising when you should look at the amount of money that they've spent, not just on full-backs, but in defenders in general. There is a case there, but for me, I think that Moyes will be more worried about what City will be doing the other way. And that's why I also think that he will start Fornals to give that extra little bit of protection. Not just to Arthur, but I think to Creswell as well, because if he's going to be up against the likes of Sterling, for example, I don't fancy Arthur or Creswell particularly in a one-on-one battle, and then Benrahma was on the pitch as well. I think that would leave us too exposed on that particular side of the pitch.
City have spent ridiculous. Someone put a stat up the other day about City and the amount of money they've spent on defenders. It's something like 400 million, which is unbelievable, and they still kind of haven't really sorted it out. Comes to Henry for this one. Now, we know Benrahma's height, we know his quality. Would you chance your arm and maybe throw him in against Manchester City, or do you think this is a game just to stick with the same side and that's shown so much promise?
I thought I was going to be the only one that was going to say this, but I like the idea of Moyes doing what he did with Bowen, as was said, with Benrahma, and sort of just giving the last 20 minutes, last 30 minutes of each game, especially against Liverpool and City and Liverpool in these 2 games. I think what some people suggesting he should go straight in are sort of forgetting if he has a terrible game and is marked out of the game by the City defence and doesn't get a sniff and spends 60 minutes of a start running around chasing shadows, not getting anything, it could actually really sort of affect his mental sort of excitement to play for West Ham. And he might not lose any fitness, but if he loses sort of a mental drive to prove himself or anything, or just thinks I'm not good enough for this level, it could actually affect him more than maybe 20 minutes where he doesn't have to do a lot, but is having to defend because we're already, say, 4-0 down. That's what I think. I think keep with Fornals and let Benrahma come in when either the game's basically decided because City are 4-0 up as they usually are in 70 minutes against West Ham, or if we're chasing the game, he's a great attacking option to bring on. We basically say to him, look, we've got nothing to do, go express yourself, if you're more saying to Benrahma. So I think there's a lot more to gain using him as an impact sub in the next 2 games. And I think there's a bit more to lose throwing him in at the deep end. So for me, I'd keep with Fornals on that left wing, especially the work rate he's going to have to be putting in against City and Liverpool, like playing against Mane, Salah and Sterling. We need someone who's just going to be tracking the whole time along with Mazaraku and Cresswell. Whereas Benrahma, if he hasn't shown the full defensive capabilities that Fornals has, it's not going to be good for the team. And I think in these games, you need to do what's best for the team. And I think Fornals is probably the option. He'll probably miss a shot and blast it 30 yards over and it'll be our one attack. But I think it's probably better for the team that it's Fornals in there rather than Benrahma.
Yeah, I do feel like that on paper, that how can you take Fornals out of the team because of his work rate, his overall playing. He does show quality, I know it kind of, maybe not consistently, he'll miss a sitter here and there, but every now and then he'll chalk up another assist, another goal. The Leicester game is a prime example. I think before coming into this game and a couple of games ago, I don't know, like Benrahma's not the right man. But having looked at Moyes now playing this high press that he did against Leicester, doing the same against Spurs, it's almost like I don't know whether he's going to go toe-to-toe with Manchester City. On paper, you think there's no way he should do that. But I don't think City in attack are as poignant as they have been. I watched the Arsenal game. Aguero's coming, deeper. You've only got really Foden and Sterling kicking on. I don't think we're going to see the same City that we've seen from previous seasons. And I think that also applies for Liverpool. Obviously, Van Dijk's now out. I don't know if Alisson will be back for the game. So it is interesting to see whether Moyes might be brave again, chance his arm and throw Benrahma in. But I've got to agree, I do think he's going to keep Pablo Fornals in. Play Benrahma in the last 10, maybe if we're chasing the game, and then we'll go from there. Jeff?
If he does well in the next games after Fulham and Sheffield United, which would be perfect to throw him in, like with a bit of Premier League experience, and then he can go. And you can give him the freedom of the game, saying you need to be doing defensive shift because instead of Sterling, it's Ademola Lookman, who's a good player, but it's not on the same level.
Yeah, no, and that is thing. Fulham, I know Fulham have brought in a few players, but that is a perfect game for someone like Benrahma. What I'd actually kind of like to see from Moyes is not, I think he'll do it anyway, playing players consistently, but maybe giving players a break. If we've got an option on that left now with Benrahma or Fornals, maybe giving Fornals a break, playing Benrahma in these games, and all of a sudden we can sort of switch it up and we're not going to get leggy, because I think we play with such a high intensity and a high work rate, whether we're pressing or whether we're playing a low block, that eventually we could peter out and then we're going to come across issues.
Yeah. I know, of course, Benrahma already scored against Fulham this season in the League Cup. So,
of course he did.
Look, you've shown you can do it against them. Go for it. But yeah.
I'd love to see it. No. Jeff, would you throw him in? There's a lot of money that's wrapped up in this potential sign at the end of this season. We're talking maybe 30 mil. Do you think there's pressure on Moyes to play Benrahma, or do you think he's going to do what he's always done and keep the same team that's done so well?
Well, I totally agree. I think all four of us are in agreement. For this game, 4-0 and stick with the same team. I think against the top teams, of which Man City certainly are, work rate, defensive responsibility, and knowing the system inside out, and covering for each other, they're the most important elements. I think, like you just said, if we have a game coming up against Fulham, Sheffield United, maybe one of the sort of the basement teams as they are at the moment, it would be perfect to chuck him in. I'll chuck him in tomorrow. But when you're playing the top teams, you can't be changing that system that we've got now that's working. So yeah, for me, Fornals starts every time. Benrahma's going to get his chance. You know how we are with injuries. Any injury in that front three, Benrahma's straight in, isn't he? So his time will come. There's options on the left there. We can rotate some players. So it's happy days. But as for City on Saturday, it's 4-0 every time. I can't see any other alternative really.
I think it's going to be tough, mate. I honestly think it's going to be tougher Fornals or Benrahma in that game, because City, both of them tend to come a little bit central. Well, obviously, they're naturally kind of playmakers. They're going to sit with Rodri there, and he's going to sort of tidy it up, and it's going to be quite hard. I mean, Yeah, you just have to stick with Fornals because I think more than anything, you trust him in that role. You know, we don't know Ben Rama, which for now it's fair enough. But you want a player that's going to, you know, put 100% in, work hard for the team. Because I wouldn't be surprised to see us, you know, sit back a little bit, try and absorb a bit of pressure. And Fornals' his final pass, if anything, you know he misses some sits, but his final pass 9 times out of 10 is very, very good. So I would bank on him to make a key assist if he can.
So I'll tell you something I was saying the other day to one of my mates. If Fornals scores that sitter against Spurs, I think we end up losing the game. I think if he puts that in, what was it, like 65th minute, something around there?
Yeah,
I think Mourinho starts to twitch. He's not quite as, he gives us a bit more respect, perhaps doesn't bring Bale on, brings on an extra defender or a holding midfielder when he sees the game out. I think when it got to the 80th minute and we hadn't scored, he thought it was in the bank, didn't he? But I do actually think if Fornals had scored that, we wouldn't have gone on to win that game.
Fornals, he planned it.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen something quite like that. That's got to be the worst miss in a long, long time. I mean, he's actually headed it over. Like, I think if he might have left it, it might have actually gone in.
So I wouldn't recommend that tactic of not scoring early in a second. I just think the way it goes is that Mourinho gets twitchy and tries to shore the game up if we get one back early. So ironically, I think that done us a favour in missing that sitter.
I will actually open it up because this has been touted around quite a bit. Do you think there was a complete lack of respect from Mourinho and this Gareth Bale? I know we all watched Sky Sports and we knew that everything was about Gareth Bale every 10 seconds. Do you think that kind of filtered to Mourinho where he put him on and he kind of went, oh, do you know what? You know, we're 3-0 up. It doesn't matter. Do you think that was a serious thing?
Not for me. No. It made perfect sense to me, really, for Mourinho to put Bale on. What did we get? 20 minutes, 25 minutes. I think everybody that was there assumed that Tottenham had won the game at 3-0. I mean, I'd love to know, you know, it's already been said, that's the first time in Premier League history that a team still 3-0 down with 10 minutes to go and come back and got anything out of the game. For me, it's a non-starter. It's just utter press nonsense in my mind. And yeah, I didn't have a problem with it. And obviously, if Bale scored that goal, then everyone would be going, what a genius manager, what the special one back. That's probably what the headline would have been, something along them sort of lines. Yeah, not a problem for me at all.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, I think if we were winning 3-0 and then it was 20 minutes ago and we put Ben Rama on, no one would be saying, oh, we're not showing Tottenham respect. I mean, Bale's on loan from Real Madrid and is probably one of their most underrated players in the last 5 years, bar the last 18 months when he hasn't played because of issues with him and Zidane. I mean, if disrespecting West Ham is by putting on a player on loan from Real Madrid who's got 3 Champions League titles at least, and everything else, then I don't understand why we're panicking and everyone's saying we need to get the board out because something's actually gone really well. If that's being disrespectful.
No, I didn't. You know, at the time, I didn't. I mean, I do think the Sky Sports thing was a little bit overboard with Gareth Bale, but at the time, it wasn't like, oh, they're bringing him on to kind of. I actually thought they would bring him on, and they would almost go in the ascendancy, and they were pushing for it. But it just felt a little bit like watching Spurs. They kind of Mourinho wanted them to sit back, and Bale was that counter attack guy that if it did come to him, he could. And he missed a sitter. Let's be clear. I thought that was in. And then up the other end, and you know, happened what happened.
Yeah.
He scores that 99 times out of 100, doesn't he? What you guys thought about the challenge Yarmolenko put in? If it was definitely near the mark. I was like wincing, waiting for it to. Well, I was just getting over the panic of Bale scoring, and then I was wincing, thinking, is he going to call for a penalty? And luckily he didn't. But I think it would have been harsh, but there's been harsher ones against us over years.
The way it is at the moment, every time someone either goes down in the box, I mean, even during the celebrations of Lanzini's goal, I was expecting, hang on, there's going to be a VR where either someone's going to be stood in front of Lloris and they're offside or something like that. So once it's sort of played on, I've calmed down a bit. I was like, okay, but VAR at the moment, like I'm always expecting the worst.
Tell me about it.
Definitely agree with that wholeheartedly. VAR it has got some good things about it, but there's also a lot of negative things about it for me. And yeah, that would have just been our luck, wouldn't it, if that VAR got involved in all of them incidents.
Yeah, no, we'll do a VAR special during international week because the content's going to be running dry. We could go on and on and on about that. Let's get to the last question. Come on, and I think we kind of touched on it, so we can sort of play around with it. But should Moyes do the same thing against Manchester City? Should he? And listen, I was tearing my hair out. I thought it was completely wrong against Spurs, and it didn't work for a long period of time. And then obviously, all of a sudden, Spurs sat back. Now, obviously, Manchester City are a different proposition. They're a different proposition this season entirely. To be fair, they're not as strong in attack. We're not seeing De Bruyne's out as well. That's another thing to account for. So, I mean, would you like Moyes to stick with that same press that he's shown against Leicester and Spurs, or do you think there needs to be a little bit of a low block, maybe the kind of game plan that we've had against Wolves? So come to Henry, and then we'll have to work our way round.
I think after what we saw in the first 16 minutes against Tottenham with the quality they have going forward, I know City obviously haven't been like firing on all cylinders going forward, but of course they still have Sterling, Aguero, Jesus. Ferran Torres has looked a great signing so far. Like, they still have all this firepower. So I'd rather see us play how we did against Wolves in terms of just sit back a bit and then go on the counter, at least for the first half, just settle in to it. So we're not sort of bombarding straight up and finding ourselves 3-0 down in the first 15 minutes again. I think we did sort of get a bit lucky with Tottenham that we managed to get back into the game, but it did show and expose how poor the defence still can be at times. So I'd like to see us sort of maybe revert to the deeper lying and then hitting City on the counter as and when we can. If it's still 0-0 going into the second half, then yeah, change it up, go into that high press and try to catch City off guard, expecting us just to go, well, we've got our point so far, so we're going to go deeper and deeper and deeper. While it's 0-0, go more forward. We've not really got anything to lose by losing the game, because we've really got more points than we thought we would have at this stage of the season anyway. So I'd rather see us start defensive and then grow into it and go attacking, rather than go attacking, try get a lead early on and then defend it for the rest of the game. So I'd rather see that, like, start conservative and then build forward rather than the other way around.
Do you know what I think is impressive? Even when we put a little bit of a low block on and sit deep, or whether we push, we always seem to create chances, and that was a massive criticism for a long time under Moyes, where there was no creativity. We weren't, there was no delivery into the box. Now all of a sudden, whether we play that low block against Wolves, we created a few chances, and we took them and we're clinical with them.
Yeah,
it feels like a little bit of a turning point, and I think on current form, we're probably one of the best teams at turning defence into attack in the league.
Yeah, I think, and also one of the issues with the Tottenham first 16 minutes that with the advancedness is because Kufal was so far advanced. That's what exposed Balbuena and exposed his lack of pace. If Kufal hadn't gone charging up, then that wouldn't. Yeah. That first couple of goals might not have happened. Like we saw in the Leicester game, how solid Balbuena and Kufal were because they were close together. But as soon as they were split apart, Balbuena just was completely exposed, and I thought he got crucified on social media for the first 15 minutes. But I was like, he's been completely left. It's the same as if Masuaku had stayed up front on the other side and Cresswell, everyone would be going back on Cresswell's back. So as long as the defence sticks together, that's when it's most solid. But yeah, I think in terms of what you're saying of going into defence to attack, for some reason, all of a sudden we seem really fluid and it's going really well. So long may that continue, because it's not a lot of times where we have this enjoyment of watching us being relatively solid at the back and fluid and exciting going forward. So it's looking good at the moment, as long as we can get past these next two games without our confidence still intact.
Yeah, do you know the only thing about it, and listen, I think we tend to do that defence to attack. Obviously, we sit quite deep, probably go to more of a 5-4-1 and then switch to a 3-4-3 on attack. But it's just that midfield. And don't get me wrong, Rice and Souček are unbelievable at that transition. But against Spurs, when they had quite a few midfielders in there, Harry Kane dropping into a 10, there's so much space for people to pick up, and that is my biggest concern against Man City, because you've seen Aguero play a little bit deeper. Maybe Bernardo Silva, like he did against Arsenal, is almost playing a bit like an 8. You don't want to give City the ball too much in that midfield.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a case of saying to either Rice or Souček, you will be, because obviously they don't have David Silva anymore. As you say, Kevin De Bruyne might miss the game. So you got to either say to either Rice or Souček, your job while we're defending is to be a metre within that Bernardo Silva's personal space, because if he starts to be creative and has space to do so, he will really hurt us. So just needs to do a proper 20th century man marking job and don't leave him alone for the whole game, really.
Yeah, honestly, mate, it is going to be tough. I'm feeling like a little bit optimistic, but I'll come to Jeff. Jeff, what would you like to see in this game? Would you like to see what we've seen against that gung-ho almost approach against Spurs, or would you be happy for us to just sit deep and then counter?
Yeah, gung-ho, we get torn apart. I mean, I know they're missing a couple of players, but they're still a quality. You know, they've got 3 11s that can match up to our first 11, really, aren't they? In their system, so there's no way gung-ho against them. But obviously, we start the same formation, the same players, but you know, the system's slightly different. Obviously, you know, we're going to have to be sitting a lot deeper, absorbing a bit of pressure, and probably relying on Antonio and Bowen to sort of stretch the game when we do get on the ball. You know, Rice has got the ability to make the long passes that we need, and you know, if we can get forwards and create something or get some set pieces, we've got threats in the air with Susic and you know, a few of the centre halves. So I certainly think we have to play a lot more conservative football, but at the same time, we're still keeping the same shape, and well, I hope we're still keeping the same shape and the same personnel. So. Yeah, I feel like, you know, hope maybe if we can get something from the game, if we sort of sit tight for the first half, and in the second half try and stretch the game a little bit, we've got every chance, haven't we?
Yeah, I think we can cause them some serious issues from delivery. If I'm perfectly honest, they look so weak from there. I know they brought Ruben Diaz in, who seems to be a decent centre back. He plays quite nicely into the midfield, so the transition's a bit quicker. But defensively, they still look all over the place, and they changed a little bit in that Arsenal game. They had a bit of a back three with kind of Cancelo as a bit of a wing back type thing. If they go back to a back four, I can see West Ham having a lot of joy through our wing backs if we start to push up and you get the delivery into the box. I think it's not a foregone conclusion as I thought it might have been a few weeks ago. There are avenues for West Ham to win in this game.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're an outside shot, of course we are, but the way, you know, no one would have predicted the last 3 games we've had, and you know, we look good against Arsenal as well. So we've always got off. We're going into every game with a chance at the moment, aren't we? So you know, everyone's got their heads up and they're up for it. You know, you're right when you touch on City's defence. They haven't found the formula yet, have they? And they've not gelled. I thought Aki was a good signing, and Diaz looks good, but they don't seem to have really found any the sort of formula yet to be steady at the back. So we can definitely expose them, and I think set pieces are an absolute winner for us with Suchik. Yeah. I mean, he can score anytime, can't he, with his head? He's such a threat in the air. So I think that's the way to get forward, put a bit of pressure on them in the second half, stretch the game a little bit, and see what comes.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was watching the highlights of the West Ham game, obviously. And I think of the second goal, Souček's almost playing like a centre forward. And you forget how much this bloke is so advanced. In the air is unreal, but it's late runs into the box as well. And you'd hope that against his quality, and you'd hope against City that if there's a bit of an overload in there and they start to panic a bit, we can get something off. Yeah,
we've definitely got the personnel to be able to bully them at the back. If we can get the ball in the box, you know, Souček and Antonio, they could cause absolute murders for Aki and Diaz and whoever else they've got in there. So there's, you know, like I said, we're an outside shot, but there's definitely a chance.
Yeah, I'm going to come to Mark now. Would you change it a little bit? I mean, KDB is out, and Kevin De Bruyne for me is one of the best players, if not the best player in the league. Does him being out change West Ham's tactics?
In as much as that we should probably be a little bit deeper, certainly compared to how we were set up in Tottenham, yes. You know, they've still got quality in there, Foden in the middle of the park, obviously Bernardo Silva. If we're as high as what we were against Tottenham, they will still have a full day with them players, even without De Bruyne for me. I wouldn't want to see us play that high up the pitch, especially against Man City. I'm not a fan of it, especially as our 3 centre-backs are not exactly the quickest, and that leaves us a little bit exposed. But, you know, obviously listening to what everyone's been saying, I think there is a little bit of confidence that we can have from the game. One of the things that I think should be an area that we should target from is not just set pieces with Souček, but I think we need to be getting Bowen and Kufel as far forward as possible when possible, and basically telling Souček, go and stand next to Kyle Walker. Kyle Walker's probably a Gary Neville. I'm taking it from him. I'd love to say it's my idea. He's been quite critical in the past of Kyle Walker's body position when the ball's on the other side of the pitch. Go and get Souček to stand on him and get a good delivery into the box. Because that, for me, I agree, City are not the greatest defensively. especially since they obviously haven't really replaced Company yet. This Diaz does look quite solid, but I would target that for us as a tactic for open play, because obviously we know Souček has got the ability to get up and down, so that wouldn't worry me too much. But from a defensive point of view, I think we need to be about enough 10 yards deeper than what we were against Tottenham, because I think with the pace of Sterling in particular, they would have a field day with their attacking, Foden and Silva as well, kicking passes. So I think low block for me, I think.
Yeah, I'll have you right though with the Bowen and Soufal, and particularly with the wing backs. We should definitely try when we get a chance to get forward and use a bit of width on City, because I think with that low block, if City do come at us, which they will, I always look at Mendy, particularly on Bowen's side, and I think he's a little bit lazy in terms of defending. He goes up and never really tends to come back. So I think there will be space against Man City. And I think in general this season, you can never write off Man City, but they haven't been the same team that we used to see. And even with De Bruyne in the side, they've lost a little bit of an edge. Defensively, they're not that great. Even when they beat Arsenal, they've only beaten by 1-0. They're not really taking and creating as many chances as we've seen before.
No, they're not. I think some of that as well with Mr. Guerrero. As a central striker, you take him out of anybody's team and you're going to struggle, which seems crazy because Jesus is a decent striker, but he's obviously not at that level. And obviously then they can play in this false nine, and it doesn't really suit City and their players, in my opinion. And they have struggled. That's ridiculous to say that. But they haven't been at their tip-top best. I do wonder if there's maybe some more position, problems off the pitch for them, because obviously we've heard, Guardiola does about 3, maybe 4 years most at a club. He's sort of going a little bit further with City than what he has in the past. They've got problems wherever he's been, and I don't know whether this is an Achilles heel for him. But all of his clubs, defensively, he seems to get found out eventually after a couple of seasons. And I think that's beginning to happen to him now. That teams are getting at his defence a little bit more. And I think there's definitely an opportunity for us to do it. But if we get anything out of it, if we get 3-0 down against Man City, we won't be coming back and getting the 3-3 in this game. I'm absolutely confident in that. I don't think City will be as naive as Tottenham were.
Yeah, I'll say something. The stream's gone up to 300 people. So while they're all here, can you make sure you like and subscribe to the West Ham Way YouTube channel? Writer's Block is every single week. You'll see these lads. That is unbelievable. If all of these people like it, then it helps us out massively. But just lost my head then, to be fair, just seeing those numbers going up. You've reached the show, lads. It's too late. But
record numbers here. Record numbers.
Record numbers. You know how we do. Yeah, look, listen. I feel a little bit optimistic. I do, and I don't want to say that too prematurely, but I do think West Ham have turned a little bit of a corner this season so far. I just think the level of consistency that we're showing in the performances, we're competitive, and that's what I've always said. Like, we're competitive in these games now. We're not sort of bystanders. There aren't obvious weaknesses. He seems to have got the team right now, and let's just hope we get a result. I mean, for me, these next 2 games are kind of free hits, if I'm perfectly honest. It's kind of, let's see what happens. If not, like Henry touched on earlier, November's fixtures are looking a little bit favourable.
Yeah. I think if we can keep our confidence in these next 2 games, however many points we get out of them, as long as we don't get an absolute drumming from either of them, I never mind losing games. It's not about that. It's when we don't try and the effort's not there, the application isn't there, and I feel so downhearted. If we've been in a battle and we've come out on the losing side, but we've given it a damn good go, I always feel all right about it, and I'm sure the players do as well. So if we can come through these next 2 games, give it our all, whether we get anything out of it or not, we'll go into the slightly easier fixtures with a bit of confidence, and I think that'll be key to getting the points on the board.
Yeah, just off the back there, what Jeff just said, I think when you do put in a good performance, even if you have lost, bizarrely you come out feeling, well, actually, yeah, we have had a go. Whatever's happened in the game, we could have been unlucky or whatever. But then you look at the next game and you think, oh, brilliant, I can't wait for that game. I'm sure the players probably feel that way. However,
it's the Arsenal game.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it makes a big difference if you have that confidence, and then you look forward to the next game in a bit more anticipation. Whereas if you've lost 4 or 5-0 or whatever, you might have a little bit of dread, especially if you've got like what we have with Liverpool the following week. So I think that's the first and foremost. If we can put in a good performance against City, then I'll be delighted. And if we get, as always been said, if these games against the big boys as a bonus game, a bit of a free hit. If you get something out of it, great. If you don't, well, we weren't expected to anyway. As hopefully we put in a good performance and take it from there, really.
Yeah.
We had these fixtures last year, didn't we? Just as Moyes was sort of getting the team playing in the Liverpool game, the one where we sort of started to show up we were winning, maybe should have got the point from, rather than obviously Liverpool's come back at the end. So if we can sort of replicate what we did in those games at a minimum, then I think we'll be good for the rest of the season, really, even if we don't pick up a point. But you'd argue if they're playing better and both of those teams are playing worse, there's no reason why we can't look at them and actually go, you know what, let's go out and try and get a point. We've got nothing to lose. They've got everything to lose in these games because they could lose track and make trouble in the league. So I think if we go for it, we've got nothing to lose and everything to gain by doing so. So yeah, why not go for it while you can?
Yeah, that's what I would say, particularly with the league this season. It's so open. Like, we're seeing results coming left, right, and centre. Like, teams just don't look as strong. Even the teams at the top end of the table look like they've sort of dropped off in terms of their standard. You'd hope that it does bode well for West Ham. And I just want us to get into November. Like, before the season, I was like, I can't bear these run of fixtures. But we get to November and let's see how we do in these games, because we've been really tested. We really have. We've had to perform at a really high level in each game to get anything from them. And obviously we've done fantastic against Leicester, Wolves, Spurs now. You'd hope that we keep that same level of performance going into November. And let's just see where we end up, because I think it's a free run this season, to be honest.
Yeah, and obviously remember the Liverpool game, they just got trashed by Villa, losing like Van Dijk for, I think I saw, for maybe over a year. Might not be back till the 2022 season. So it's the perfect time to play them, because they're going to be, their morale's going to be so low. So if we can just get through the game intact, still have the positive goal difference, maybe even pick up a point, then we can really get the game for people and really try to get them up, depending what happens in the next week for them, of course.
Yeah, no, definitely. Listen, that's it for this week. I've had a great chat. We've gone over that Spurs result. I mean, we're going to love it. I still can't really get over it. I'll probably go and watch it in a minute. Thanks to all the lads for coming on. Once again, it's always a pleasure. We will go. Mark, don't go off just when I end the stream. Just stay there for a second. Thanks everyone that's watching. All 176, which is slightly surprising given it wasn't that high about 5 minutes ago. Make sure you like and subscribe to the West Ham Way YouTube channel. And until next time, take care.
Daniel.